My stepbrother mocked my grandfather's food truck for years. Now he wants half the business. Posted in r/relationship_advice. I, 27F, need advice about a situation with my stepbrother, 31M, that's destroying our blended family. 6 months ago, I inherited my grandfather's food truck business, and now my stepbrother Derek, who spent years calling it embarrassing poverty work, suddenly wants to be my business partner after discovering it generates over $200,000 in annual profit. I need to provide extensive background for this to make sense. My grandfather, Papa Joe, was the most important person in my life. He raised me partially after my father died when I was 3. My mother, Isabella, worked 2 jobs to support us, so Papa Joe picked me up from school, helped with homework, and taught me about life while cooking in his small kitchen. He was a former accountant who'd immigrated from Puerto Rico in his 20s, worked corporate jobs for 35 years, and always dreamed of sharing his mother's recipes with the world. When Papa Joe retired at 65, instead of playing golf or watching TV, he bought a used food truck with his savings. Everyone thought he was crazy. "You worked your whole life to rest," my mom said. "Why are you starting something so demanding now?" But Papa Joe said retirement without purpose was just waiting to die, and he wanted to live. The early days were brutal. I was 12 when he started, and I remember him coming home exhausted, sometimes having made only $100 for 14 hours of work. But he persevered, tweaking recipes, finding the right locations, building customer relationships. By the time I was 14, he had regular spots at 3 breweries, 2 business districts, and weekend farmers markets. Around that same time, my mother met Richard at a charity fundraiser. Richard was everything my father hadn't been: wealthy, established, commanding. He owned a real estate development firm, drove a Mercedes, and lived in a house with 6 bedrooms. Mom was swept off her feet. They married within a year, and suddenly I had a stepfather and stepbrother. Derek was 16 when our families merged, and the class differences were immediately apparent. He attended private school, had a new car, and spent summers at sailing camp. He looked at our modest lifestyle with barely concealed disdain. The first time Richard and Derek came to our old apartment to help us pack, Derek whispered to his father, loud enough for me to hear, "How did you fall for someone from this neighborhood?" Richard tried to bond with me initially, but when he learned I spent weekends helping Papa Joe with the food truck, his interest waned. "Sophia needs to focus on her education," he told my mother. "Not waste time with that venture." The way he said venture made it clear what he really thought. Derek's contempt was more direct. When classmates asked about our family, he'd say his stepsister's grandfather runs a taco stand. When Papa Joe came to my school events, still wearing his work clothes because he'd rushed from the truck, Derek would pretend not to know him. The worst was when Papa Joe brought food to my quinceanera, Derek told his friends. The old man couldn't afford real catering, so he brought his truck food. But while Derek was embarrassed, I was proud. Papa Joe taught me everything about the business. I learned to prep vegetables with precision, season meat perfectly, manage inventory, calculate food costs, negotiate with suppliers, and maintain equipment. More importantly, I learned about customer service, building community, and taking pride in honest work. By my senior year of high school, Joe's Rolling Kitchen had 3 trucks and 15 employees. Papa Joe had contracts with tech companies for their lunch programs, exclusive rights at several breweries, and a growing catering division. He'd hired Miguel, his former neighbor, as kitchen manager, and Carmen, a culinary school graduate, as head chef. The business was thriving, but you wouldn't know it from how Richard and Derek talked about it. At my high school graduation dinner, Richard gave a toast about how I was finally ready to leave behind childish things and enter the professional world. Derek added, "No more food truck duty. Time for a real career." Papa Joe sat quietly, but I saw the hurt in his eyes. Later, privately, he told me, "Mija, never let anyone make you ashamed of honest work. They may have more money, but they have less soul." I went to State University for business management, against Richard's wishes. He wanted me to study pre-law. Every break, every summer, I worked with Papa Joe. While Derek interned at investment banks and consulting firms, I was learning QuickBooks, obtaining food handling certifications, and developing new menu items. Papa Joe started calling me his business partner, though officially I was just an employee. Derek graduated with his MBA and immediately joined Richard's firm as a development associate, essentially a nepotism hire with a fancy title. At family dinners, they discussed million-dollar property deals while Papa Joe and I talked about new salsa recipes. The divide was obvious, but I didn't care. I was learning from someone who'd built something from nothing, not someone who'd inherited success. The loss and inheritance. Papa Joe died suddenly last December. He'd seemed healthy, still working 12-hour days at 78, still perfecting recipes, still greeting every regular customer by name. The heart attack happened in his commercial kitchen at 5 a.m. while prepping for the breakfast rush. Miguel found him and called me, sobbing. I don't remember driving there, just holding Papa Joe's hand in the ambulance, knowing he was already gone but unable to let go. The funeral was revealing. Hundreds came, customers, employees, fellow food truck owners, brewery owners, charity organizers he'd fed for free. The diversity was beautiful. Construction workers beside tech executives, homeless individuals he'd never turned away beside city council members. They shared stories I'd never heard. Papa Joe secretly paying for a young employee's community college tuition, providing free meals to a family whose child was in cancer treatment, teaching entrepreneurship skills to at-risk youth. Richard and Derek stood apart from the crowd, checking their phones, clearly counting the minutes until they could leave. Derek actually took a business call during the eulogy. When one of Papa Joe's regular customers, a janitor named William, broke down crying while sharing how Papa Joe had fed him for free during his unemployment, Derek rolled his eyes. The will reading was scheduled 2 weeks later. Richard attended, assuming Papa Joe's meager estate needed family support to settle. The lawyer, Mr. Martinez, read through the smaller bequests first, personal items to friends, small cash gifts to longtime employees, his car to Miguel. Then came the significant assets. The house at 445 Maple Street, valued at approximately $350,000, I leave to my daughter, Isabella. Mom gasped. None of us knew Papa Joe had paid off the mortgage. My business, Joe's Rolling Kitchen, including all trucks, equipment, commercial kitchen lease, contracts, recipes, and operating capital, I leave entirely to my granddaughter, Sofia Maria Hernandez, along with this letter. Mr. Martinez handed me an envelope. With shaking hands, I read aloud. My dearest Sofia, you are the only one who saw my business not as an embarrassment but as an expression of love. Every recipe, every early morning, every late night. You were there, learning not just the work but the why behind it. Others see only food trucks. You see families fed, communities built, traditions preserved. This business isn't just my legacy, it's yours. You earned it through respect, dedication, and understanding. Keep it alive, keep it honest, and never let anyone make you feel small for serving others. All my love, Papa Joe. The room was silent until Richard laughed. Well, that's sweet. Sophia, I can connect you with someone to help you liquidate the assets. Those trucks must be worth something as scrap metal. I'm not selling anything, I said quietly. Derek smirked. Come on, Sophia. You have a real degree now. You're not seriously going to run a food truck empire. It's not an empire, I replied. It's a family business. And yes, I'm keeping it. Taking over the business. I quit my marketing job the next day. My boss thought I was crazy, giving up a steady salary and benefits to work in food service. But I knew what I had to do. The first weeks were overwhelming. Papa Joe had handled so much personally that I didn't realize. Vendor relationships, equipment maintenance schedules, tax filings, health department compliance, employee scheduling. He'd made it look effortless, but it was intricate choreography. Miguel and Carmen were invaluable. They could have resented me, this 27-year-old inheriting what they'd helped build, but instead they embraced me. Papa Joe talked about you constantly, Carmen said. He knew you'd take care of us. I immediately gave them both raises and formal titles. Operations Director for Miguel, Culinary Director for Carmen. We had some rough patches. A generator failure during a massive corporate lunch nearly cost us a major contract. A new employee quit mid-shift during the Valentine's Day rush. The health inspector found violations Papa Joe had always charmed his way through. I had to spend $15,000 on kitchen upgrades. But we survived, adapted, grew stronger. I modernized where Papa Joe had resisted. We started accepting credit cards, launched social media accounts, implemented online ordering for catering. But I kept the core intact. Same recipes, same quality ingredients, same commitment to community. When a competitor offered Carmen double her salary, she stayed. Papa Joe gave me a chance when no one else would, she said. You're continuing that. Money isn't everything. By March, I'd found my rhythm. The business was actually growing. We added a 4th truck, expanded our catering menu, secured contracts with 2 new office buildings. I was exhausted but exhilarated. This was Papa Joe's dream, now mine, thriving despite everyone who dismissed it. Update 1. The financial discovery. Everything changed in April. Richard was preparing taxes and asked Mom for various documents. She was gathering paperwork and accidentally included Papa Joe's business tax returns. Richard, being nosy, read them in detail. I heard his shout from upstairs. This can't be right. He stormed into the kitchen where Mom and I were having coffee, waving the papers. The food truck business made over $200,000 in profit last year? That's none of your business, I said coldly. It certainly is my business when family assets are being mismanaged, he replied. These numbers, gross receipts of $650,000. This is substantial. Why didn't Joe ever mention this? Because he knew you'd suddenly care about his taco stand if you knew it was profitable, I shot back. Richard's entire demeanor shifted. The man who'd once suggested Papa Joe should retire from his hobby was suddenly very interested. Sophia, we need to discuss proper management of this enterprise. You're young, inexperienced. This level of revenue requires professional oversight. Over the following days, Richard became obsessed. He drove by our lunch locations, counting customers. He researched food truck industry valuations. He called his lawyer friends about family business structures. Mom tried to calm him, but Richard was like a shark who'd scented blood. Derek's transformation was even more dramatic. He started texting me business articles about food industry trends. He happened to be near my lunch spots, observing operations. He even showed up at the commercial kitchen one morning, dressed down in jeans and a polo instead of his usual suit. Just wanted to see the operation, he said casually. Pretty impressive setup Papa Joe built. The same setup you called a grease depot last Christmas? I reminded him. Derek had the audacity to look wounded. That was just joking around. You know, I always respected Papa Joe's entrepreneurial spirit. Really? Was that before or after you told your girlfriend that my grandfather peddled ethnic food to drunk people? Derek's face darkened. Things change, Sophia. Families should support family. I'm here to help. I don't need help, I said firmly. I have Miguel and Carmen. They're employees, Derek said dismissively. You need family. Someone with real business acumen. I have an MBA from Wharton. And I have 4 years of experience in this actual business, I countered. Which do you think matters more? Derek left, but I knew this wasn't over. His wounded pride wouldn't let him accept being excluded from something valuable. Update 2. The partnership proposal. 2 weeks later, Derek requested a formal meeting. He arrived at the commercial kitchen with a PowerPoint presentation on his laptop and a 30-page business plan. I agreed to listen, mostly out of curiosity. His presentation was impressive in its complete disconnection from reality. He proposed transforming Joe's Rolling Kitchen into JRK Enterprises, a scalable food service solution with franchising opportunities, venture capital funding, and eventual IPO potential. He wanted to streamline operations by replacing our custom-made dishes with pre-packaged foods, cut labor costs by 40%, firing most of our team, and abandon our community-focused locations for higher-margin corporate contracts. The food truck industry is exploding, Derek explained, clicking through graphs. With proper management, we could achieve 300% growth within 18 months. I've already had preliminary discussions with potential investors. You've been shopping my business to investors? I asked, incredulous. Our business, Derek corrected. Family businesses should remain in the family. I'm proposing a 50-50 partnership. You handle daily operations. I handle strategic growth. Together, we maximize Papa Joe's legacy. I laughed, which clearly wasn't the response he expected. Papa Joe's legacy? You want to fire Miguel and Carmen, replace our fresh ingredients with frozen packets, and abandon the communities we serve. That's not his legacy, that's its destruction. Derek's mask of reasonableness slipped. You're being emotional and short-sighted. This is business, not a charity. Papa Joe left money on the table because he was too old-fashioned to modernize. Don't make the same mistake. It's not a mistake to value people over profit, I said. Papa Joe built something meaningful. You see dollars. I see families who depend on us, customers who trust us, communities we're part of. That's not old-fashioned, it's sustainable. Sustainable? Derek sneered. You're barely scratching the surface of potential revenue. I've run the numbers. We could triple profits within a year. By we, you mean you want half of what you didn't build, don't understand, and until last month, actively mocked, I said. My answer is no. Derek stood, shoving his laptop into his bag. You're making a huge mistake. When this falls apart, and it will without proper management, remember I tried to help. Update 3. The Family Campaign. Derek didn't accept rejection well. He launched what I can only describe as a psychological warfare campaign through our parents. Sunday dinners became interrogations. Richard would quiz me about profit margins, expansion plans, equipment depreciation schedules. When I'd deflect, he'd express concern about my lack of strategic vision. Mom, caught in the middle, tried to keep peace. Maybe just give Derek something small, she'd plead privately. Even just 10%. For family harmony. Would you give away 10% of your father's house to keep Richard happy? I asked. That's different, she said weakly. How? Because the house is worth less than the business. The guilt trips were relentless. Richard started making comments about family taking care of family, and how Papa Joe would want the family united. This was particularly galling since Papa Joe had specifically excluded Derek from the business. Derek escalated by showing up during our busiest times, introducing himself to customers as co-owner, contradicting my decisions in front of employees, and suggesting improvements that demoralized the team. Carmen pulled me aside one day, near tears. Derek told me I'm overpaid and that changes are coming. Is that true? I'd had enough. I called a lawyer, Elena Suarez, who'd known Papa Joe. She reviewed everything and confirmed the inheritance was ironclad. Then she said something interesting. Your grandfather came to me 2 years ago, worried about this exact scenario. He knew Richard and Derek would suddenly care if they knew the real numbers. That's why he never discussed finances around them. Elena helped me draft cease and desist letters regarding Derek's interference. But before sending them, I decided to try one more family meeting. Update 4. The evidence meeting. I invited everyone to the commercial kitchen on a Sunday evening. I'd prepared extensively, gathering documents, statements, and evidence. Derek arrived cocky, Richard condescending, Mom anxious. I started with a photo slideshow, Papa Joe at his truck, employees at company picnics, community events we'd supported, regular customers who'd become friends. Then I showed Derek's social media posts over the years. Embarrassing when people ask what my step-grandfather does. #foodtrucklife #NotMyChoice, 2019. Some people build empires. Others serve lunch from vans. 2020. Watching my stepfamily work their business, while I close million-dollar deals. #Perspective Matters, 2021. That awkward moment when your step-grandfather's food truck is at your networking event. #Can't Escape, 2022. Derek shifted uncomfortably. People change. Let me finish, I interrupted. I presented emails Elena had helped me obtain through Discovery. Derek actively discouraging potential customers from hiring us for events, telling them we were unreliable and unprofessional. One email to a country club Richard belonged to actually said, I'd recommend against Joe's Rolling Kitchen. It's a family embarrassment I'm working to distance myself from. Richard went pale. Derek, is this true? Derek's face was red. I was protecting our reputation. From what? From honest work. I asked. From a successful business that employed 15 people and served thousands? I then showed the numbers, not just profit, but impact. Wages paid to employees, $400,000 annually. Free meals provided to homeless shelters, $30,000 worth. Youth sports sponsorships, $15,000. Community event support, countless hours and resources. This is Papa Joe's legacy, I said. Not just money, but community impact. Derek, you've shown nothing but contempt for this until you saw dollar signs. You actively sabotaged us. Why would I ever make you a partner? Derek exploded. Because I'm family. Because I have the education and connections to make this actually matter. You're playing small ball, content with your little truck empire when this could be a real business. This is a real business, I said calmly. Just because you don't respect it doesn't diminish its reality or value. Richard tried a different approach. Sophia, be reasonable. Derek made mistakes, but he's offering expertise. What expertise? I challenged. Has he ever worked a food service shift? Does he know our suppliers? Can he name 5 regular customers? Does he know Carmen's daughter's name or that Miguel's son just graduated? This business isn't just numbers, it's relationships. I made my final offer. Derek, if you genuinely want to be part of this business, prove it. Work the morning shift for 6 months. Learn every position. Show respect for our employees and customers. After 6 months, if Miguel and Carmen agree you understand and value what we do, I'll consider a junior management position. Not ownership, but employment. Derek stood up so fast his chair fell over. You want me to flip burgers? Serve tacos? Like some minimum wage nobody. Like Papa Joe did every day for 15 years, I said. Like I do. Like everyone who built this business does. This is insane, Derek spat. You're going to regret this. When you fail, and you will, don't come crying to me. He stormed out. Richard followed but turned back. You're making a terrible mistake, Sophia. Derek could have helped you succeed. I'm already succeeding, I replied. You're just too blind to see it. Resolution and reflection. It's been 3 months since that confrontation. Derek hasn't spoken to me directly, though he's apparently told extended family that I stole his inheritance and destroyed the family. Richard maintains cold civility but makes passive-aggressive comments about missed opportunities and stubborn youth. Mom, surprisingly, has come around. She found Papa Joe's journal while cleaning, with entries about his hopes for the business and his concerns about Richard and Derek's attitudes. One entry particularly struck her. Isabella thinks I should include Derek to keep peace. But how can I leave my life's work to someone who sees it as beneath him? Sophia understands that feeding people is sacred work. She sees the honor in service. The business, freed from Derek's interference, is flourishing. We've added breakfast service, Papa Joe's Dream, launched a food truck apprenticeship program for at-risk youth, and started Papa Joe Sundays, where we provide free meals to families in need. Last month, we cleared $25,000 in profit while maintaining our values. The unexpected benefit has been the team's response. Knowing I stood up to family pressure to protect their jobs has created incredible loyalty. Miguel's nephew Luis joined us, bringing social media expertise and genuine enthusiasm. Carmen's developing a cookbook of Papa Joe's recipes, with proceeds going to culinary scholarships. We're not just a business, we're a family, the kind Papa Joe always envisioned. Last week, something interesting happened. One of Derek's MBA classmates, Thomas, approached me at a farmer's market. I heard about your situation through Derek, he said. Though I suspect his version differs from reality. I'm actually writing my thesis on sustainable small business models. Your operation is exactly what I'm studying, profitable while maintaining social responsibility. Would you consider being a case study? I agreed, and through Thomas, I've connected with a network of socially conscious entrepreneurs. They're interested not in franchising or massive expansion, but in our model of community-integrated business. We're exploring partnerships that align with our values, not Derek's vision of profit maximization. The irony isn't lost on me. Derek wanted to make the business matter through his connections and education. But it already mattered to every customer we fed, every employee we supported, every community event we sponsored. His connections are now coming to me, drawn by authenticity rather than ambition. I still leave the door open for Derek. The offer stands. Prove you respect the work, and you can join us. But respect can't be faked or fast-tracked. It must be earned through sweat, service, and sacrifice, things Derek has never associated with success. Papa Joe used to say, Mija, some people know the price of everything but the value of nothing. Derek exemplifies this. He sees our $200,000 profit, but not the single mother we employ who can now afford her child's medical care. He sees 3 food trucks, but not the communities that gather around them. He sees a business opportunity, but not a legacy of love. Every morning at 5 a.m., when I'm prepping vegetables in the kitchen Papa Joe built, I feel his presence. Not as a ghost, but as a foundation, the values he instilled, the work ethic he modeled, the integrity he demanded. That's the real inheritance, worth more than any profit margin. The business will continue growing, but on our terms. We'll expand thoughtfully, hire carefully, and never forget that our success comes from serving others, not serving ourselves. Derek can keep his MBA theories and corporate ambitions. We'll keep feeding people, building community, and proving that there's profound dignity in work others might diminish. To those wondering if I'm being unfair to Derek, he had years to show interest, offer help, or simply show respect. He chose mockery, sabotage, and condescension. Now that money's involved, he wants immediate partnership without earning it. That's not unfair, that's unearned. Papa Joe's last words to me were at Thanksgiving dinner, just weeks before he died. Derek had just made another snide comment about Sophia's little taco adventure. Papa Joe squeezed my hand and whispered, "Never apologize for honest work, Mija. Those who mock service reveal their character, not yours." I carry those words daily. The food truck business isn't just my inheritance, it's my calling, my community, my continuation of Papa Joe's dream. Derek sees that as stubbornness. I see it as stewardship. And every successful day proves Papa Joe right. Respect, not revenue, is the true measure of success. The offer remains open to Derek, though I doubt his pride will ever let him accept it. That's his loss. Meanwhile, we'll keep rolling, one meal, one customer, one community at a time, proving that the best revenge against those who dismissed us isn't spite but success on our own terms.